But that's the challenge. I mean, that's how our circumstances that we're in can provoke us to become a person of prayer. And if we're gonna be that person of prayer, we have to learn how to hit the reset button. Not just in your morning prayer time, but throughout the day. What I really want to go through is how in the world do we hit the reset button? When you get to that place where you've just gotten lost in your day. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, is start off our day. I think doing morning prayer time is really effective because it gives you that baseline to be able to just get a connection with God, whether you're taking a walk, you're listening to a teaching, taking a walk and listening to a teaching, or just moving around, doing quiet prayer, doing some reading. There's a lot of different things that we do to recollect. And I think recollection is one of the biggest levels, one of the most important levels of prayer. Because if we don't get to this place where we learn how to recollect, you just get so lost. How many times have you had a week where something started to get under your skin, or you started to get so focused on the projects that you were doing, the circumstances that you were in, that you looked back on your week and it was just, God, where are you? Where did you go? And he's gone. He's not in your mind. You're not praying about things. You're not being really sensitive to how he's leading you or moving you. It's just about getting the next project done or doing that next thing. And that's what recollection prayer does for us, isn't it? We get to start and just remember who we are, remember what our convictions are. And in the beginning, if you're really, really faithful to it, it takes some time. I know it's been a huge challenge since we decided to open up the cafe, because it's busy. And it's really, really easy when you're busy to just lose sight of God, because you get so caught up in what you're doing or getting the next order out or the next project. Are we running out of this? Do we have to restock this? It's a busy, loud environment. So it becomes really difficult that when things start to get off a little bit spiritually, to just let them go, where you don't address it right away. You just kind of let things take their course, and you say, okay, well, maybe after my shift, obviously I'm really off right now and I need to go pray, but let me just wait till my shift is done, or let me wait till I finish this project, or let me wait till I do this or I do that, or maybe at the end of the day, or maybe it's just, hey, next morning, I'll deal with it and I get myself straight. And in order for us to really take some substantial steps forward in our union with Christ, we have to learn to not lose him in the crowd, where we just let whatever is going on in our day just take over, where we're not praying anymore. We're not really trying to get a sense of peace. We're lost. We're just in the next project, the next thing, the next circumstance that we want to change, and how we want to get to a place of peace. But if you're really good at hitting that reset button, you can get back on track really quickly. In many ways, I'm so grateful for the cafe. It's no coincidence that the Lord has called us to do this. Put aside all the food and just all the other just good areas that we know that it serves. It really is training for us to be able to hold on to a connection with him, learn to be subordinate, be prayerful about our decisions, not be moved by a big rush or just a high intensity moments. A lot of people say that to work in retail and even particularly food service is one of the most stressful jobs that you can do. Probably not, definitely not above maybe like a air traffic controller or I'm sure there's a lot of other careers that can be pretty stressful, but food service is definitely up there on the list, and it's been a challenge just to be able to be that united group, hold on to our peace, and be spiritual. And does anyone have any doubt that it's a really good training ground for us? And in order for us to not just get totally swept away by the work that we're doing, and obviously it doesn't have to be work at the cafe. I'm betting, I'm not sure that people at other jobs experience some level of stress. And I don't know, maybe I'm making an assumption, but I'm thinking that stress comes with just about any job where you just get lost, and then it's easy to say, well, this person's the problem, this circumstance is the problem, or why did this have to happen this way and this happen that way? And I would just want you to think in that moment, are you just waiting for the pressure to end and then reset? Or do you think to take a step back for a moment and hit the reset button in the moment to be able to stop? And I know the first thought that I think a lot of people go to in that moment, well, Mike, it's not like I can just say, hey, disgruntled customer, why don't you wait 15 minutes and I'm going to come back and then we'll talk when I'm that doesn't always work. There's not always that opportunity when you're serving people or you're in a work environment just to say, I'm very angry with you right now, and I'll give you your food in 15 minutes after I recollect. We don't always have that opportunity, do we? Sometimes we do, but not always. But that's the challenge. I mean, that's how our circumstances that we're in can provoke us to become a person of prayer. And if we're going to be that person of prayer, we have to learn how to hit the reset button. Not just in your morning prayer time, but throughout the day. I mean, when you think about it, let's just assume you do your prayer time in the morning. I know not everybody does, but let's say that you do. How long do you hold on to him after your prayer time? Like before, you're just so far in the day thinking about all the stuff that you got to do and all the problems that are ahead of you. How long do you hold on to him? And I'm betting that unless you're really, really focusing as like your mission to not lose Jesus in the crowd, you lose him pretty quick. It could be before you walk out the front door. It could be before you even get to work. It could be an hour into work, and if it's something that we're really focusing on disciplining ourselves to do, which we should be, because we've learned that being in union with Christ is not just being a good person, but following his promptings, having a sense of what he's saying. And in order to do that, you have to be clear-minded, and you have to not be moved by your circumstances or the pressure that you're feeling, but really fighting to get a sense of him. How many of you guys go through your day regularly and you realize, wow, I didn't lose him at all today? Does that happen all the time? Okay, well, if that's not happening, then you have to get good at hitting the reset button. And that's just another way of saying recollecting. And there is a way that you can do it even in the moment. And in the beginning, just like, remember when we started to do quiet prayer, or we started to focus on meditation? Like I've told you guys stories in the past where we were doing the renovations here and doing construction work, and it's like, okay, I have one scripture in my mind, and I'm going to meditate on this my whole 3 hours of construction work. 5 minutes later, I'm struggling to get a screw into the wall, and I totally forgot what the scripture was and had to look it up. It's not a easy thing to do. As a culture, we're naturally pretty like undisciplined mentally, I want to say, because we've been taught really to focus so much on our behavior and saying the right thing and doing the right thing that the thoughts that you have don't tend to take as much precedence, that most people are pretty unbridled in their thought life. And then add that to the fact that we're just a media focused, just please me, give me a video, give me just something to stare at. We don't really do well with focused anything. It just, everything is a distraction. It's about escaping. It's about not being in the moment, thinking about all the things you want to do when you're not in that moment. And I mean, that's just the culture that we're living in. And we really haven't been taught to be like disciplined in our minds. So in the beginning, it takes a while. And I remember it was a really helpful exercise, I know, for me during those times, to be able to just say, I'm going to focus on this scripture. I'm going to not let my mind drift or not get lost in the project or just make it about finishing, because this was my prayer time. Like going into it, yes, I was working, but it was my prayer time. That was my priority. Work was second, prayer was first. And I guess if you think about it, that probably should always be the case. If our number one goal is to be in union with Christ, then our prayer time, our focus of really being in union with Him should always be number one, project second, even at work. So I went through just day after day doing this construction work and training my mind to just meditate, to learn to focus on something that was spiritual while my body was busy doing something physical. And it was a really good discipline to just stay in touch with Him and not lose sight of Him. And I know as a leadership with this cafe, it's been a really good opportunity to just say, hey, we're here to impart to every customer. And even for those of us who aren't directly dealing with customers, thinking, I'm here to impart a clean spirit into this food, into everything that I touch, that I don't want frustration going into this food. I don't want stress. I don't want to just let another bin pass me by and not feel like I put my whole heart into it, because you feel that. You know when someone packs your food and it just was done in chaos, or just their heart wasn't put into it. It's like you can kind of have that sense of it, and you may not consciously be aware of it, but there's something about it that just doesn't feel clean and or just pure. But then when you get that meal that was made from this place of peace, from a place of prayer, there's something really, really satisfying about it. That it's like this impartation of peace, because, well, that's what was actually imparted into the food. That's a very real thing. It's not just about the outward appearance, but the attitude that someone did something. And just like my prayer time when we were doing construction, had to learn to be in this place to say, it's getting a little chaotic spiritually right now, and we need to reset. And that's a word that we use a lot. Hey, we need to do a reset here when things start to just get out of hand. And sometimes we do that reset when we finish all the orders and have a couple minutes before the new ones start coming. But sometimes there's just not that opportunity. There's not a moment where you can just walk away. In really extreme moments, we do just have to walk away. That if you just really are getting to a bad place, sometimes you do just have to take 5 minutes and recollect, if at all possible, in whatever moment that you're in. But if we focus on constantly recollecting through the day, not just during your prayer time, you can do it really quickly. I've noticed that since we've been doing the cafe, moments that may have taken that 5 minutes just to okay, let's reset, let's get to a place of peace, sometimes can happen in 10 seconds. You believe that? 10 seconds. Sometimes it's just as simple as stopping for 10 seconds, taking a clean break and just say, let me remember who I am, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and the spirit that I want inspiring me right now. And it just takes a moment to be conscious, to be deliberate, just for a second, to say, wow, there's a spirit that wants me to feel frustrated or upset or overwhelmed or panicking or fearful or proud, or it just could be 100 different things that you're feeling. And sometimes it's just 10 seconds. Maybe even as simple as just pushing a button. They actually have devices that you could buy that I think is kind of a joke, where it's a big red button and it just says the easy button, and you can, yeah, and you could just go and push that button. We almost need a little physical, reset button. And if we say we had that in the kitchen, there was a big red button that you could push that was the reset button, do you think it would magically just cause yourself to recollect? Probably not. Would it be helpful? I bet you it would. You know why? I'm not saying we're going to do it, for those of you who are already deciding that this is a new, I got to put easy buttons around the whole cafe. But I think it would help, because just to push a button, you all have time to do that. I don't care what you're doing or what your job is. You have time to walk 10 feet and push a button. We could figure that out, couldn't we? Nobody is so busy that you don't have 10 seconds to do a reset, to go and push the button. But if that's a habit for you, we're not always in high stress situations that we can't walk away for 5 minutes. That's not the norm. It's a rare occurrence where you just literally can't go anywhere for 5 minutes. There's always an occasion that you can step away for a moment and reset. But say you had that button and you just push the reset button. You know why it would be helpful? Because it's a deliberate thing that you're doing. You're walking 10 feet out of your way and you're deliberately pushing a button. And tell me if every single time you did have a moment to take 5 minutes and you recognize that something was out, and say you took that 5 minutes and you got really good at just not letting things go unchecked, but you reset and you reset, you think that in that moment when you can't walk away, you'll be prepared to just reset mentally while your body keeps working. I bet you can get really good at it. If we're doing our prayer time to reset, to get a rich sense of God, and you still are losing sight of Him throughout your day more often than you would like, well, then put something else in place that'll help you get back on track. I know that there's been examples of people, say, on their lunch break, they'll take 10 minutes to read, or take a short walk, or maybe listen to a message for 10-15 minutes, or there's a lot of different things that you can do to have a midday reset. But if it's a habit, like you form it into a habit that you just don't wait till the project's done. You don't say, okay, well, when this is finished, then I won't feel the pressure, then I can reset. That is a bad habit because there's always something to do. Like, how often do we find ourselves in a place where we're just bored with nothing to do? It's a bad habit. There's always another thing on the list that needs to be worked on, or another thing that needs to be accomplished, whether you're working or it's chores at home or just doing life. I mean, very rarely are there just all this free time all the time. At least for me, there's always a list. There's always something there that has to get done that you're working on, and you can't wait until like all the pressures just go away and all the difficult circumstances. There's always going to be something hard going on. There's always going to be a pressure somewhere. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be stuff to do. So if we're in the habit of waiting till the pressure goes away, you're going to go very long stretches of time where you just totally disconnect from Jesus and don't have a sense of him. But if you make it a habit, you start to, I even want to say, just make it like your own integrity. Just to say, my union with Christ is 1, my project is 2. As important as that project might be, nothing's more important than my union with Christ right now. So I need to reset. And there's things that you can do. I mean, some of you are at jobs where maybe you can put an earbud in your ear and listen while you're working, if that's possible. There's different things that you can just take advantage of that will help you hit that reset button. But I can tell you right now, let's say you go and you put that earbud in your ear and you start listening to a message. If you're not conscious about pushing the reset button, you're not going to listen to it. It'll be playing in your ear, but you won't be able to say what you actually just listened to. You won't get any self-knowledge about it. You won't apply it, and you won't connect maybe to the peace that is imparted through that message. It's just going to be something in your ear. I mean, that's happened to all of us, hasn't it? And good intentioned, like I'm going to play this or I'm going to do this, but you just got so focused on the project that you didn't hear anything that was really playing anyways. Happens to all of us all the time. So we have to form a good habit. Like get into a practice where my union with Christ is number 1. My work is number 2, whatever that work is. And if you do it when it's not critical mass, you're going to do better when it is critical mass. Because you're going to get to that place where you're aligned. Your heart is in the right place and you're used to having a discipline in your mind. And I want to say in your mind, but also over your feelings. Because sometimes it's not just thoughts, but it's really oppressive feelings that want to just give you 100 reasons to identify with them and take you off track. But last service, we talked about these moments that were critical in our process that caused us to become the people that we are today, that aren't focused on living the American dream, but focused on our own personal growth. Not being right, not straightening everybody out, not having perfect, comfortable circumstances, but just being a person of peace and making that the priority. And we have to have good habits. And a regular prayer time will help you get to that place of recollection, but you also have to really discipline yourself and say, Jesus, I don't want to lose you today. I do not want to lose a sense of you. Or maybe you had your prayer time and you never got a sense of him in the first place. So you don't let go. At that point, you say, well, I still got to go to work, but I can keep praying while I'm at work until I get that sense of you, until I feel recollected. I feel that my motives are aligned in that place of I'm here to serve you and not just do what I want to do or do the thing that's easy. But we can keep fighting to have a sense of him, and then if you get in that habit, I promise you, you can have moments where it is critical mass, high pressure, every single person around you is stressing out, losing their peace, and you can just in 10 seconds push the reset button. Just say, no, I don't think so. That is not how I respond to circumstances. That's not how I respond to people. That's not how I respond to my own feelings. And I don't care how strong they are or how big of a circumstance I'm in. I can be at peace. I can be steady right now, and whatever degree things have gotten its hook in me, I can pray a prayer. I can say, Lord, I'm sorry. You know what? I've just gotten too caught up in my own feelings and my own circumstance. I'm sorry. I'm not living for me. I'm living for you. Let's get back on track here. You think Jesus will honor that prayer? Yeah, I think so. I think that he'll be right there to rise up inside of you and to give you everything that you need to be that prayerful person who's in union with Christ. But it's got to be a focus, something that we're really fighting to accomplish.